about any question related to either substantive issue or organizational issue of IGF. The Secretariat will capture all the proposals which will be expressed during this discussion. And so, shall we start? The rules are very simple. There are a number of microphones in the room. Please approach any of them. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. If need be, we can see if that is extendable or not, depending on how many people will want to take the floor. And the moment we will exhaust list of speakers, we will suspend the session and we'll wait until the beginning of closing ceremony, which is scheduled for 4 o'clock. So we have about 75 minutes at our disposal. I do not see anybody at the microphone. Shall I consider? No, I see. Baroness, please. Before you say, please state your name, affiliation, that we can register that. Please, floor is yours, ma'am. Sorry, we don't hear you. Let me see if we can fix the sound, please.
Is it working? Yes, it's working. Thank you very much, Hannes. My name is Sarah Ludford. I'm a member of the British Parliament in the upper house, the House of Lords, and I was a member of the European Parliament for 15 years until May. And I apologise to anyone who's heard me say this week. I might be repetitive. I'm here with grateful thanks to Nominet in the UK, who I'm their sort of sponsored parliamentarian this year. And I would just like to make a plea for the perhaps fuller involvement of parliamentarians and legislators in IGF. I personally have only been aware of a Dutch senator and thankfully some, I think 4 members of the European Parliament. There may well have been other parliamentarians from national parliaments. I perhaps haven't just been in the right sessions. Now I'm sure, and I'm only in the beginning of a learning curve, I'm sure if once I hope to get involved with the UK IGF, I'll discover there are in fact lots of parliamentarians back home. But just, you know, if there are outcomes or whatever, they will filter down to the national parliaments, whether it's policy or even potentially as legislation. So it's probably good to front load the process by getting parliamentarians involved at as early a stage as possible. Thank you.
So thank you very much. We are trying very hard to attract attention of parliamentarians. Some years we had more than others, but thank you for noting that. I see there is a next speaker at that microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is Arzu. I'm from Azerbaijan, but here I'm together with the Freedom House Turkish delegation. We, the undersigned representatives of a group of global activists, journalists, and lawyers from more than a dozen countries who attended and participated in the 9th annual meeting of the Internet Governance Forum on September 1 through 5th, 2014 in Istanbul, Turkey, as part of the Freedom House Civil Society delegation, make this statement at the meeting's conclusion to highlight our positions and concerns. A growing number of governments and non-governmental organizations, as well as the UN Human Rights Council, have expressed serious concern that civil society is facing increasing assault around the world, with authoritarian governments growing more bold and sophisticated in stifling individuals and groups that promote human rights, expose corruption, or otherwise give citizens a voice. In highlight of this, it is vital that the IGF work diligently to maintain and strengthen the equal participation of civil society and refrain from using procedures such as the UN principle of discouraging ad hominem attacks as a pretext to stifle debate. In a new report released last week, Freedom House described the IGF House country Turkey as a battleground state for internet governance, meaning that what happens domestically in Turkey sets a precedent for internet governance elsewhere. The state's intensifying efforts to control the internet in Turkey demonstrate many of the challenges to the internet governance, and it is unfortunate that groups that wish to openly discuss these were forced to have these conversations in a separate venue due to UN restrictions on open dialogue. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your statement. I see the next speaker is standing in line. Please, ma'am, you have the floor.
My name is Tanya Hopat. I'm from Ukraine, and I represent the global part of the Freedom House delegation. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we perhaps have the speaker speak more closely to the microphone?
IGF participants that at this critical juncture in determining the future of the Internet governance process can and should be improved. Furthermore, we stress the importance of upholding and strengthening the multi-stakeholder approach to ensure that the Internet remains open, global, secure, and resilient. And in calling for more protection of human rights online, our group makes the following recommendations. First, renew and extend the IGF mandate. We call on the UN Department for Economic and Social Affairs and UN member states to strongly support renewing and extending the IGF mandate, which is currently set to expire at the end of 2015. We believe that short-term mandates hinder the ability of the IGF to fully achieve the outcomes that stakeholders involved in the process seek. The substance of the mandate should be evaluated and, where necessary, adjusted through open consultation, utilizing the multi-stakeholder approach. Over the past 9 years, the IGF has provided one of the few venues for certain civil society members who do not need to fear reprisals in their home countries to directly address leaders in national governments, the private sector, and the technical community, particularly for participants who were blocked from engaging with government representatives and other decision makers in their own countries. Second, strengthen multi-stakeholderism through equality, diversity, and access. This year's IGF included numerous workshops on topics of human rights, including freedom of expression, gender, privacy, and access. Yet the value of this enterprise is undermined when governments can use the IGF to promote themselves, but civil society groups are forbidden by the ad hominem principle from criticizing them. Likewise, gender equality cannot genuinely be discussed when the vast majority of individuals at high-level meetings, delivering speeches and participating on workshop panels are men. Access also cannot be addressed when remote participation fails to adequately provide two-way discussion for those who cannot attend in person. The IGF should include these voices not only to promote multi-stakeholderism and inclusion, but also to improve the quality of discussion and the prospects for solutions. Third, expand transparency. For civil society to be an effective stakeholder in the Internet governance ecosystem, more transparency is needed on the part of other stakeholders to better inform individuals and groups' advocacy. We welcome the growing number of businesses that have issued transparency reports on requests for user data and content takedown, and urge them to continue to improve these reports to include greater detail about their results and their process for responding to requests. Transparency reports should be standard practice for all companies that receive removal and user data requests, in drafting and implementing laws affecting, governments should also strive for greater transparency in drafting and implementing laws affecting transparency and ensure that legal frameworks do not prohibit businesses from disclosing information about the number and type of requests they receive and comply with. Even as we highlight these challenges, we affirm that a 2014 IGF, with its open-ended consultative process, enabled individuals and groups to amplify human rights perspectives and concerns in the forum's sessions, as well as through side meetings and consultations with representatives of governments, businesses, the technical community, multilateral bodies, and civil society organizations from all over the world. We urge all stakeholders to continue to engage and participate in future IGFs, to strengthen the forum's multi-stakeholder process, and to uphold the principles of openness, transparency, and inclusiveness. Thank you.
Chair, if you could have the technicians adjust the microphone, that would make it much easier for the interpreters to do their job.
To do their job properly. And now we have 3 more speakers in line. I will start with the first microphone here, and then we will go for the second microphone. Please, ma'am.
Yeah, my name is Pernille Tranberg. I work with the Danish Business Authority. I just want to say that it's been a really, really good conference. Lots of good topics and people. But there's one flaw, I think, and that is, you know, there are big corporations part of this conference, and they have been speaking a lot about privacy and human rights. But when they talk about privacy and human rights, they only talk about government surveillance. They don't talk about corporate surveillance. And we have not discussed corporate surveillance, which is just as important for many humans in the world. I'm not saying government surveillance is not important, but corporate surveillance is really important, and I hope we can take up that topic again. And also the last thing, I saw the Google Tent event, which was really interesting as well. It's in the official program, but the On Governance Forum is not in the official program, and that's not my understanding of the multi-stakeholder model. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So next speaker, please, Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Janis. My name is Thomas de Haan from the Dutch government. I just wanted to tackle on one issue which I think deserves more attention in the IGF, and it's the impact of the adoption, specifically the non-adoption of Internet standards for the security of the Internet. We held a workshop about this. It was also participating the chair of the ITF, American Standards Organization, Cisco, Google, APNIC, and user representatives. We noticed that in the IGF, the issue has a lot of attention, but it's more on the making of standards and on the, let's say, how in a multi-stakeholder process, voluntary standards are adopted through consensual system, which is all right. And I think this is something which is recognized by everybody. But we think there is still a problem in the non-adoption of certain very basic standards like IPv6, DNSSEC, DKIM, and others. And what we see is something which is probably for that reason something for the IGF, that it needs a lot more of multi-stakeholder collaboration between Internet standards bodies, the private sector, governments, and civil society. For example, it was signaled that one of the major impediments of actors not complying or adopting standards is the fact that they don't get the benefits from the investment and the time they have to spend on it. So there is a kind of, I would not say market failure, but it doesn't work as we all want it to work. I will leave it by that, but I think this is a topic which needs much more attention in a more multi-stakeholder way. And we didn't come out with a concrete outcome, but we think this is something which could be tackled either in the best practice forum or in some other session. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Please, next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Alexander Castro, and I'm here representing the major Brazilian telecommunication operators. It was a great pleasure to attend this conference, and before we leave, I would like to make a very brief comment. During the whole first day of the IGF conference, we had an excellent debate on net neutrality and its effects on zero-rate programs, development of infrastructure, the provision of specialized service, and so on. We realized that we have different players supporting different definitions for the net neutrality concept. According to some players, including us, we understand that some zero-rate programs and business models based on reversal charging don't conflict with net neutrality concept, but others have a different understanding. According to some stakeholders, including us, the concept of net neutrality should accommodate the possibility of offering specialized services in different way of the regular internet, and we will understand that solutions based on content-delivered networks don't have any relation with net neutrality. But we realize that others think differently. So, in our view, we have an excellent debate, but we have no consensus regarding these issues. So we believe that we must continue to discuss in order to reach the necessary balance among all stakeholders. But finally, I would like to say that in one thing we have a big consensus, and this is regarding the necessity to include 2/3 of the world population. And for those who currently have an internet access, we must develop the networks in order to provide new access with higher speed and better quality. And in the real world, to accomplish these goals, we need to invest so much money, and these investments must have sustainability. So the Brazilian telecommunication service providers understand that operators should have the necessary freedom to manage their network in order to guarantee their stability and their security, and of course, to optimize the use of those networks. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in Brazil next year. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your statement. Please, next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Daria Catalui. I'm working for the EU's Cybersecurity Agency, NISA, and I would like to invite you all in an educational initiative. Maybe some of you are aware that October is a Cybersecurity Month all over the world. In US, started in 2001, in Europe also 2010. So currently Asia Pacific is participating, Australia, Africa, but I would like just to invite also other stakeholders from the present countries to join our common activities for digital citizens all over the world, in Europe, but also worldwide. Thank you. And for the European Cybersecurity Month, you could already check all the coordination and who is the partner and what are we suggesting on the topical topics for each week on the website, which is cybersecuritymonth.eu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before giving floor to the next speaker, we have a remote participant. I will give the floor to the coordinator, please.
We have a question from K.S. Raju, Andhra Pradesh, India, ISAC chapter Open Internet from Civil Society. What is outcome of NetMondial final draft and this meeting final draft? Are we going to have one open internet governance framework serving all internet users? This freedom rights issue raised as freedom of expression is treated differently in each country. I have a couple of other comments. Can I read?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to read this. Okay. Also, we have a comment from a couple of questions. Who creates job for people? Is it the enterprise or the customers? We have to keep. And in the ICT age, we must also cultivate the cyber farmland. To do this, we must first know where is cyberspace. Everybody thinks web is only about the World Wide Web. However, we have to recognize it has another meaning. By understanding the cyberspace, we can avoid being trapped. To all of you who are here today in the IGF meeting, I invite you to think about how we can, I'm sorry, the message got interrupted. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. I think that answering those questions, they are open-ended, and of course all of us were trying to work to make this internet governance ecosystem as efficient as possible. And IGF is one of the places that contributes towards that goal. So we have two speakers here. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Norbert Bollo. I'm a co-convener of the JustNet Coalition, and I would like to comment on the theme of this year's Internet Governance Forum, because it has really disappointed me. In all previous years, we had a theme of internet governance for development in different variations and flavors. I'm not saying we must always focus on development. There's lots of other human rights that are also good to focus on, but multi-stakeholderism, in my view, is a tool. It may well be a good tool, or maybe it is a broken tool that needs to be fixed, but it is a tool that can be used for good, or if it is broken, it may create problems, but it's not a goal in itself. I say, let's keep in mind what are the goals, giving everybody on this planet the opportunity, the real experience of their human rights. That is absolutely the kind of goal that we should focus on. So I say, let's please, for the next Internet Governance Forums, focus on worthwhile goals again. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm going now stereo. I need to use 2 microphones as technician suggested. So Alexander, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Alejandro Pisanti from the National University of Mexico. Sorry. Start again. My name is Alejandro Pisanti from the National University of Mexico and the Sociedad Internet de México, the Internet Society chapter in Mexico. I would just like to address what was stated by Mr. Castro. Previously, he has left the room, so I am asking Hartmut Glaser to convey this to him. Or are you still there? The fact that you can report there was no consensus on network neutrality during the many workshops on the issue is a feature. It's not a bug. It's a good result. If there is no consensus, the report itself is the outcome you need. And this subject will continue for sure. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Of course, we have to continue until we get to consensus in one way or another.
Or the issue disappears.
And we can get to consensus only if the decision-making is well informed. Mervi, please.
Thank you, Yanis. My name is Mervi Kultamaa. I'm from UNCTAD, which hosts United Nations Commission on Science and Technology for Development, CSTD. And I would just like to remind that the CSTD is conducting a 10-year review of the implementation of WSIS outcomes. And of course, the IGF and internet governance are part of that 10-year review. There is an ongoing call for inputs for all stakeholders to share their views and experiences of WSIS implementation. And please look at the CSTD website for more information. The deadline for submitting inputs is 15th of September. So there is still one more week time after you leave Istanbul. The more evidence we get, the better the outcome of the review will be. So please share your views and experiences. We welcome all inputs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mervi. I will now ask Ronnie Coben at the back of the room. Please, Ronnie, you have the floor.
Throughout this IGF, excuse my bad voice, throughout this IGF, I kept hearing calls for the affirmation of privacy or privacy as a right without there ever being any discussion of what it really is, as if it were self-evident.
Ronnie, I'm sorry, we do not hear you. Maybe you can turn a little bit microphone that we can...
Is this better? Is this better?
Seems it's much better, yeah.
I was saying, throughout this IGF, I kept hearing calls for affirmation of privacy or privacy as a right without there ever being any discussion of what it really is, as if it were self-evident, with one clear, unambiguous definition, and no problems over its implication. In fact, it's a very complex notion that is not always clear. It hides a multitude of vices and virtues. It seems to me that at the next IGF, we need a serious discussion of what is privacy, what it covers, what its implications are for freedom of expression. We can see from the discussion of the right to forget, on data retention, on the need for journalistic exemption to data protection, etc., that we need a nuanced, articulated discussion and definition of what is actually desirable in this field. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ronnie. Now I'm turning to the next speaker, please. First microphone.
Thank you. I'm Yasser Al-Fakhrani from Egypt, EMS, Electronic Media Syndicate, Egypt. I'd like to thank the IGF's 9th meeting and all the organizers and the supporters of the IGF. During the IGF, you have discussed a lot of fantastic and a lot of issues. Unfortunately, most of these issues do not exist on the ground in our country, Egypt, I mean, exactly. Especially after the military coup. And after the military coup, we do not enjoy any of most of what you have mentioned or what you have discussed during your IGF. We have no freedom of expression and no freedom, access to knowledge or access to information. We are suffering from all these freedoms. You can never express your opinion. If you express your opinion, you are about to be, whether to be killed or to be imprisoned or detained. Or our government deals with us as numbers. We are just numbers, nothing else. We are not. They do not deal with us as humans. That's why I'm very astonished. You have discussed a lot of things which do not exist in my country, and I hope and I wish and I call upon our government to reconsider all these freedoms and all these issues which were discussed during the IGF 9 meeting. Thank you so much indeed. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now I'm providing the floor to the next speaker. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michaela Naylan, I'm the CEO and founder of Black Knight. We're an Irish company, a hosting company. And
would you speak closer to the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm CEO and founder of Black Knight. We're an Irish hosting company and domain registrar. This is the first time I've come to an IGF, and I just wanted to say that I'm very impressed with the level and quality of the content throughout the meeting. I thought it was a pleasant surprise. I kind of expected something much heavier and more, I don't know, possibly boring, let's just say. But it was pleasant to see so many people from the four corners of the globe who have strong, passionate feelings about internet governance and who come from a diverse range of backgrounds. However, there were a few things that I did find made it quite difficult to engage at times. Many of the panels seemed to be 3 to 4 times larger than they should have been. So instead of there being 3, maybe 4 speakers, there were, in one case, I saw it was like 15 speakers, all crowded around one tiny little table. By the time they'd all introduced themselves, you were 45 minutes into the session. By the time you got to any substance, you were at 80 minutes, and then you had 10 minutes for the floor, which was a bit kind of, well, silly, to say the least. The other thing as well, I mean, maybe it's something specific to IGF, I honestly don't know, but a lot of speakers don't seem to introduce themselves. So again, you're looking at a bunch of people standing up there or sitting up there talking away, and you have no idea who's talking. Because there's no indication, there's no name tags, and they don't say their names a lot of the time. And that's all, just a couple of comments. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your feedback. We will have also the online feedback form, and we would encourage all of you to provide your assessment how this event went. Indeed, we're always struggling with the number of competing interests, including the number of speakers, so that is a long-standing issue, and we're permanently trying to address that. Hopefully one day we will be successful. Next, microphone number 2, Izumi.
Hello, my name is Izumi Aizu, member of the MAG, or Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, and also a member of civil society. I'm from Japan, or from Tokyo. First of all, I'd like to thank Turkey, or the people of Turkey, with such rich historical and cultural environment. We learned a lot, and that made our IGF pretty rich and fruitful. I expect very radical changes for the next IGF in Brazil. I just learned that it's not in the big city like Sao Paulo or Rio, but rather a very Brazilian coastal side of great city where we can meet easily with the local people or ordinary people, perhaps. I was tasked to interview participants of IGF this time, thanks to our colleague of the MAG, Veronika Cretu from Moldova, a neighboring country from here. And in addition to this online questionnaire, I see this personal interview very enjoyable with myself, but also gave the interviewees more freedom to say or explore some ideas. And I'm sure at the after the closure of this IGF ceremony meeting, we'll soon meet within the MAG to bring together all the findings or results of our interviews to improve. Like just a suggestion from the gentleman about the number of speakers and not enough sort of time for interaction. We hear these a lot. It's perhaps the most common remarks made. Last year we heard too many workshops, difficult to choose from. So this year we tried to reduce at least a number of the workshops, although we couldn't really reduce that much. And then we encountered some challenges. Why did you not accept our proposal? We only could make 100 out of 200 or less, so that we had all the unfortunate 100 proposals. We have to deal with that. I even dared to go to yesterday so-called, officially called Internet Ungovernance Forum. Unlike some previous speakers said, I wouldn't think it should be included inside the official IGF program, because they said we'd like to boycott IGF in some legitimate reasons that they've been trying to fight with the issue of the human right and the freedom of speech inside Turkey, so that they don't want to have some legitimacy of bringing this IGF to Istanbul, which I have slightly different idea about that. I'd like to still come to engage to any country where any problem happens, depend on which country they are. A journalist from Afghanistan came and I interviewed, and he'd like to share the best example of practices of being experienced in Afghanistan with the neighboring countries. But for the first time comer, it's very difficult for him to take a microphone of anything. Same happened from a lady from Africa. She really wanted to share the issue that she is facing with colleagues across the globe, and they have difficulty in finding a common place. So there's a lot of room to improve, and I promise I will take it to the MAG, at least to the next IGF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Izumi. And we have some messages from remote participants. Moderator, please. Seems we have a technical problem. I'm going now to microphone number 1, Subi.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Subhi Chaturvedi. I teach at the University of Delhi at a women's college, the Lady Shri Ram College for Women, and we have a women's development cell. We're often accused of overstating our own case. I want to start out by first thanking the wonderful city of Turkey and the host country. There is a reason why the IGF comes to a different region and a different country each year. The idea is to make sure that we ensure civil society and different stakeholder perspectives when we move to a region or a different country. So when issues are discussed, it's important to have local people participating in these conversations, and we owe it to creating, enabling, and facilitative processes that ensure that the IGF remains the free, open, inclusive, transparent, bottom-up space that it was meant to be. I don't speak here as a MAG member. I speak on behalf of some of the most fascinating participants that I had occasion to meet yesterday evening in a workshop called Facilitating Youth at the IGF. The youngest was about 13 years old, and they have some ideas which I'd like to share. We'd like to see more young people, and one way of doing that is also to not just give them workshops. They were also grateful to the Secretariat for giving them the main room in the main session. This enables conversations and visibility and participants from not just the end users, but also the lead users, as they'd like to be referred to. There was also a request that they should be included as participants and speakers on some of the main sessions that we do, so that perspectives are refreshing and they can speak to people who make these decisions. There was also a call for creating a stakeholder group, which is the youth on the MAG, so that they can invite adults to engage with them and not the other way around. We would also like to see a band that says, I'm an adult and I'd like to listen to a young person. These are suggestions, and they would also like to have one young person enabled to invite another young person, so that when we go on the road to Brazil, it becomes the youngest IGF ever. Those are just some small specific solutions that we heard towards strengthening the IGF, and we'd like to see the IGF strengthened, and it should continue. Thank you for enabling participation and creating this platform. That's all.
So thank you very much. Actually, that was one of the issues that was raised yesterday when I was engaging with the participants of Internet's Ungovernance Forum. They said, you are too old there to address issues of the youth. And Internet that you're talking about is not the Internet that youth is talking about. We have now a second attempt for the remote participation. Please, yes. Let's give it a try.
So I'm going to read one comment from the Africa Virtual Hub. The Africa Virtual Hub is a completely online hub, which is a meeting throughout the IGF in an online chat room in their Diplo Foundation classroom as part of a course, Internet Governance in Africa. An introduction, a joint project between NEPTA and Diplo. This has been very interesting, as no physical hub was used or was necessary, allowing attendance during the day, cross-session comments, recommendations, and strategies for the future. Both of IG for Africa and for needs for quality of remote participation. And we also have Sheila, that they are going to make an audio intervention, if we can put them on the presentation.
My name is Lee Kanjang from South Korea. I made a NEPIA. We know that even advanced countries are suffering from economic crisis today. What happened to these advanced countries with high-speed internet? Gathered here today are internet experts. I am honored to ask these questions for us to ponder. 1. Where is the cyberspace? 2. What constitution governs the cyberspace? 3. Whose customers are those who type your brand and company names in the internet address bar? Please take note, not in the search bar. Think about this. We all, if you dial the telephone number of Mr. Pizza directly, are you a customer of the telephone service or the operator, like 411? You are definitely a customer of Mr. Pizza. It's obvious. In the ICT age, if internet user type in the URL bar mrpizza.co.kr or mrpizza.com, assuming these are domain names owned by Mr. Pizza, they are evidently a customer of Mr. Pizza. Just like dialing telephone numbers, customers are directly connected to Mr. Pizza. The telephone evolved into a more advanced technology, the internet. More questions? Who creates jobs for the people? Is it the enterprises or the customers? We have to keep our customers because fundamentally, customers create jobs, not only the enterprises. These questions call for everyone's attention because these are issues that affect the current status of the economy. Sadly, most of us are not well aware of this. For workplace, in the agricultural age, people cultivated farmland. In the ICT age, we must also cultivate the side farmland. To do this, we must first know where is the cyberspace. Everybody thinks web is only about World Wide Web. However, we have to recognize it has another meaning, trap. By understanding the cyberspace, we can avoid being trapped. To all of you who are here today in the IGF meeting, I invite you to think about how we can solve the global economic crisis in relation to the questions that I raised. Thank you very much.
So thank you, and of course apologies for the quality of the sound. Please, I'm going now to the microphone number 2. Andrea, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andrea Sachs, and I'm the coordinator of the Dynamic Coalition on Accessibility and Disability. And I want to sort of say something about captioning and captioners, and also address the issue that a previous gentleman made about not having speakers identified. It all ties together. You must, when you are taking the floor, and it is a must from me, whether you are a speaker or asking a question, identify yourself. And if you have an unusual name, spell it. There should be training of chairmen on how to flip. I'm just going to give an example. You can say, okay, Mary, we'd like to have your comment. Even if we only have a first name, we can then identify the speaker later when they go through the files. It is so vital for the records that we know who spoke and what they said. Also, raw files of captioning should not go up on the web until the captioners have had a chance to correct these names and possibly terminology that they may not be familiar with. They're human beings. They don't know to spell everybody's name or every terminology that you could possibly come up with. So we have to help them so we get the best out of captioning. Also, as an organizer of a workshop and a dynamic coalition meeting, it is my responsibility, and I give this to every single one of you who wants to do this again next year, to collate all the information that is written down and send it directly for the captioner. IGF can't organize that. They don't have the staff. But you do. You have the time. You're organizing it anyway. If they get it in advance, they have a better chance of spelling the terminology and the names of the people. It is your responsibility as a human being in this room to identify yourself so we have a clear, good record, and don't post these files until they can correct them, because we look ridiculous, and it's not their fault that they can't write everybody's name down. And I also just want to, of course, advertise, as I always do, we have now, to help with training, a guideline, the DICAD Accessibility Guideline 2004. It doesn't have everything in it, of course. It's an ongoing document, a living document, and it's going to be posted, and I want everybody to take a look at it because it'll have some of these pointers to make you better workshop leaders, better presenters, and also help host countries, most of all, make accessible meetings not only physically, but also virtually. And I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Andrea, for your advice and guidance. I hope that chair is excluded from the rule that to call name every time the chair takes the floor. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you would hate me simply because you would hear my name too frequently. So that said, I am calling for the next speaker. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Nurani Nimpuno. I'm from NetNode. That is N for Nelly, U for Uncle, R for Robert, A for Adam, N for Nelly, and I for Isaac. You can tell that I have a name that might not be that common in many parts of the world. As someone who's been involved with the IGF from the start, and I've been on the MAG as well for several years, not anymore, I think it is really encouraging to see the IGF improving. And I think I'm not just saying that because it's the right thing to say, but I actually think that we are getting better every year. It is fantastic to see the high quality of the workshops. I thought last year's IGF was the best, and this might be even better. And I think it shows that the IGF listens not only to recommendations from the CS3 working group on the IGF improvement, but actually listens to its community and is continually improving. I think it's great to see that there's greater involvement in the program shaping than from only the MAG, and I think that's a really positive step that we should continue with, getting more people of the community in to shape the program. I think we still have a lot to do to increase our inclusiveness and reach out to those who are not present here. But there are many organizations that do a great job trying to do their bit to contribute, like the RIPE NCC, finding people in their community, covering their expenses to come here, like the ISOC programs, like Nominet, there are many. I think also the remote participation has also improved over the years, and that is thanks to a lot of people working very hard with that. I think, and I know it's very hard for the MAG to evaluate and feedback, give back feedback to workshop organizers, but I think this is something we can continue to improve. And especially given some of the comments I've heard about workshops being rejected, maybe we also need to become clearer about them, why they're rejected, not that they might be simply because they're not fully completed proposals. I think the best current practice, or the best practice initiative, is a fantastic one. I think we should try to do more there. I think we should maybe even consider looking at other communities' best practice documents or procedures and see how that can feed into the IGF. The areas we need to improve, though, I think the very large panels where you have, I don't know, 15 people sitting on a panel, I think that hinders interaction. Another mistake we keep making is we put the same people on the same panels throughout the week, but on the same panels year after year, and I think we need to be better at that. And then finally, I just want to say that we've heard very strong support for the IGF over the years, and I think we should continue to strengthen the IGF. And I would also like to express the support for an extension of the IGF. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your thoughts. And now I'm inviting Marilyn Cade to take the floor.
My name is Marilyn Cade. I want to explain quickly why I say it that way, and it reinforces what Andrea said. it's important for us to be identified, and if we're going to take the trouble to prepare comments to go to the microphone, saying our name clearly, and even providing that contact information to the transcriptionist will be very, very helpful. But that's not why I came to the microphone. I wanted to make a comment. I'm a first-time MAG member, although I have been involved in the IGF from its beginning, and I've seen the evolution, and I want to mention a couple of things that to me were very revolutionary here. I was privileged to work with a group that brought two very unusual organizations to the IGF, WAVE, the Women Alliance for Virtual Engagement, and another group focused on internet freedom. The IGF, in my view, has the potential of becoming the place to come to not only participate in the IGF, but to meet with others, to contact, to develop networks, and to share information and to expand. And at this meeting, I saw many, many organizations that needed to have side meetings and needed to interact with each other, as well as being then present to participate in the program. I don't support putting the side meetings into the program, but one thing the MAG might think about is a desk at which people who are holding side meetings that are open could be, there could be flyers or an announcement of how to find those groups. But making the assumption that if people are going to come here for those side meetings, then we will need to also take that into account in terms of space. And I also wanted to say that making the IGF the place to come each year means that we need to, as the MAG and as a community, work on accelerating our planning on the program in terms of picking the theme and getting information, making information available. I'd also like to think, I want to lend my voice to those who are calling for the importance of the reauthorization of the mandate of the IGF and its extension. But I'd also like to think that we might want to, as the MAG and the community, establish a 6-week period during which the IGF occurs so that the host country has flexibility to pick, but the community has a window of time each year at which they can expect that the IGF will be scheduled somewhere in that period. I say that because that would also help the national and regional IGF initiatives to be able to plan their schedule. Thank you.
Thank you, Maryland, for your suggestions. Of course, MAG will be meeting today after the closing session, and some of those issues will be addressed immediately. We have requests from the remote participation moderator. Please.
Yeah. We have another comment from K.S. Raju, ISAC, Charter Open Internet Civil Society. Question to panel. All stakeholders should have say in IGF. This was discussed in last Net Mondial meetings. The government offices are not giving say to these sectors. For example, civil society, farmers, doctors, teachers must be selected from each state of country to make IGF true open system rather than red tape forum. And we have another comment from Mr. Iftikhar from Pakistan. I remotely participated in the different sessions of IGF 2014. Thanks to hosting organizations to organize such useful sessions on internet governance matters, particularly on IDNs to promote the local languages, cybersecurity and local languages, cybersecurity and e-commerce. I hope such events will also be organized in future.
So thank you very much. I'm going now to microphone number 2. Please, ma'am.
Thanks. Antel Klerks from the Netherlands. Difficult name, it's like THIJL. And what I wanted to address is the issue of, well, the very few young people that were here this time. First of all, I would like to say that the young people that were there, and especially ones that were at an IGF or internet governance related event for the first time, did a great job, I think. But what I want to ask all of you is, please, for all those people that have been at IGFs for 7, 8, 9 times and to other of these events, please think back to the first time you went to such an event, and please realize how intimidating it is to walk into such a room when you're maybe 18 or 16 years old, see all those people that all know each other and that all know exactly what it's all about, that know all the involved organizations, all the short terms and, you know, the words you use. And please just realize that when you walk in as a very young person, you don't know what it's all about and you need some guidance. So, of course, we need to make sure that the young people are there, but when they're there, please, when you see someone walking around, looking around a little bit lost, go to him, ask him what he's looking for, what he needs to know. Please help the young people to participate. And I also think in that, talking about this, it's important to realize how important the national IGF events are for creating more participation from youth, because the threshold to go to an event in your own country it makes it much easier, because you don't have to take a week off from school, for example, which is a big issue for young people, and you don't have to travel because, you know, a flight of 300 euros may sound cheap, but that's expensive for us. So that's what I wanted to say, basically, and it also asks for, I want to ask people and companies and organizations that are happy to help youth, please try to provide continuous funding to let the same persons come to a series of events and not just one, because it just takes you 1 or 2 events to even get into what it's all about. This is now my 5th internet governance related event, so I get the feeling that I you know, start to understand everything that's happening here. But I really got to thank mostly the Netherlands IGF and RIPE NCC for providing me with funds to come every time and to get to know more people and get to know the subject. So please, let's all try to, if you can, fund the young people, but at least try to make them feel welcome. Don't laugh at them if they don't know all the little terms and vocabulary, and just try to help them a little bit. Thanks.
So thank you very much. I see that you have already gotten the virus all of us we have here, the virus called Internet Governance virus. Now I will call for the next speaker from microphone 2, who was the first in line, please.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Wout Denatris, and I will also spell that. It's W-O-U-T-D-E-N-A-T-R-I-S, but it's already up there, I see. I've got several hats, as also you know, at on the table there. I'm speaking as a private person. Just want to share 2 observations I had during this conference. The very first session I participated in was on creative destruction, and I saw a lot of people on the stage crying with the bulls, preaching to the choir, and everybody they were bashing, to use the word, were not in the room. So in other words, an opportunity lost, and I think something that may be taken up in the next year, to have companies in the room also that actually work on these creative destructions, but also create perhaps new jobs which are not recognized. So how do we get the balance? How do you get governments in there that may need to address this topic? So that's one. The other one is that, to respond to the lady from, I think, Denmark, that NL-IGF held a workshop on privacy and innovation. And yes, the private side was discussed there. But what I noticed, it was mainly focused on Facebook and Google. But I got a very short story to tell, that a journalist in the Netherlands hacked his iPhone, I think it was, but maybe it was another brand, and tapped that through his laptop and back to the iPhone into the world. And he adopted an app from a famous store in the Netherlands, and the moment he said yes, 74 different companies entered his cell phone, tapped everything that was in there, from photos to Twitter account, everything, and there were companies there that nobody has ever heard of. So in other words, if you talk privacy, who are we actually talking about? So maybe that's a topic to introduce for next year, because the implications of privacy, whether good or bad, that's also to be determined, may actually be parties involved that we just don't know, who are not in this room, and maybe no government has ever heard about, and we don't know where they come from. So perhaps that's a topic to continue in 2015. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm turning to the next speaker, microphone number 1, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Lona Smiyu. I'm from Uganda, working with the Ministry of Education and Sports. This is my second IGF attending. I wish to thank the team from which has organized the IGF 2014 and the Turkey government. From the sessions I've attended, I noticed that Africa has been mentioned to be brought on board in so many sessions to participate actively. Uganda is one of the countries which should be included, especially the Ministry of Education, which I represent here today. And I wish to encourage the participation from governments to support IGF and giving training through the Ministries of Education, especially where you find that it can be placed in secondary schools and other institutions, so that they are aware what is the IGFs are doing. So I encourage participation of the Ministries of Education. They shouldn't leave it to the IT ministries only. So that people can all benefit, because I know that only attending IGFs, national IGFs, is not possible. But when it is put in class, the students will understand what it means, and they will eventually participate fully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, next speaker is on microphone 1. And since we're getting close to the end of the session, I would like to see if I can draw the line under the list of speakers, meaning to provide the floor for 2 remaining, or there is somebody who will be rushing to the microphone to have intervention. Yes, I see gentlemen on that side. And I'm drawing, we'll have 3 speakers from now. Please, microphone number 1.
Thank you, Chair. At first, I would like to thank the government of Turkey. My name is Andrei Sherbovich, National Research University Higher School of Economics, Moscow, Russia Federation. I'd like to thank the government of Turkey for the excellent organization of the IGF. And I'd like to thank all who are involved in this organization meeting. I know well that how it's difficult to organize this kind of multi-stakeholder dialogue, and I hope that this dialogue would be extended and continued more and more next year. This year, I could see some alternative places, like discussed Internet ungovernance forums and other unofficial places to discuss. But I think maybe those feelings of people who would like to get involved in the Internet governance are understandable. But I could encourage them to be involved in the Internet governance platform with the Internet governance forum. And I hope this is one of the best places to discuss the Internet governance issue. I hope it would continue its work for the next period of mandate, and see you in Brazil 2015. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Next speaker, microphone number 2, please.
Hi, my name is Bianca Ho. I'm a Net Mission ambassador. So again, I'm actually very glad to see Subi and Theo already made comments on youth participation. And I'm actually moderated workshop 173, so I'm very thankful for the IGF to put us in the main session so we could have multi-languages. So we also had a woman who participated in Spanish, and it was really helpful to have the translation. The other thing I want to stress about Workshop 173 is that it's a collaborative effort of YCIG, so it's glad to see some actual things coming out of YCIG. So I'm standing here to add on top of their comments is actually some specific things that IGF Secretariat could provide to us. There's two things we ask for. Number one is have a KPI for youth participation. So for example, next year, we can do a statistics on how many youth have participated in the IGF, and then next year we try to improve that year after year. The second thing that I asked for is actually to give this online space to us to create this resource pool. So this is for bridging, developing, and developed internet policy discussion among youth for sharing info. The other thing that I see is a lot of workshop organizers have been telling us it's very hard to find youth on panels. So it will be a good place to have the youth gather together, and whenever someone wants to host a workshop on a specific issue like net neutrality, they could find youth to speak on their panel, and it would be very convincing. So those are the two things that I'm asking for from the IGF panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please don't leave the microphone. I'm ignorant. What is KPR, please?
Oh, KPI means key performance indicator.
Thank you. I was not shy to ask the question. Thank you. And the last speaker will be speaking at the microphone number 3, please. You have the floor, sir.
My name is Abd Fattah Hassan Yusuf. I am from Somalia, and South Somaliland Student Association in Turkey, international coordinator. And I'm very sorry that time is not enough, so that I would like also thank the teamwork IGF and Turkey government and all organizations that support during the meeting. So that I have one question. And who support IGF and system and internet program development to it's not government and countries of and development to the internet. Thank you.
So thank you. I think we will answer your question individually. Thank you very much for all those who took the microphone during the open mic session. The suggestions which were expressed have been duly noted by Secretariat, and we will include them in our reflection list that MAG will look at during the consideration of success stories and challenges we encounter during this meeting. As I mentioned, the MAG will meet immediately after the end of closing session in the Galata Hall in Rumeli building. Those who are not tired yet from listening, you are most welcome to come and listen. We will be exchanging our first impressions about the event. We will be talking about timetable of preparation of 2015 IGF, as well as modalities of that process. And we will be discussing the renewal of the MAG, how to better coordinate the process. So these are 3 questions on the agenda. Those who are interested, you're welcome to observe that MAG meeting. With that, I would like to draw to the end the open mic session, and would invite you to be back in the room in 10 minutes when we will start the closing ceremony of the IGF 2014. Thank you very much for your participation.
Test.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start in 2 minutes. Thank you very much. We'll start in 2 minutes. Shall we start? Ladies and gentlemen, let's start the closing session of the 9th Internet Governance Forum. Thank you very much. If you could all take your seats. Thank you. And I will invite the chair and you and Dessa to take the seats on the podium, please. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to open the closing ceremony of the 2014 IGF meeting in Istanbul. In the closing ceremony, we have 12 speakers from all stakeholder groups who will make closing remarks. It is my honor to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Vyacheslav Cherkasov, Senior Governance of the Public Administration and Development Management Branch, United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDESA. He will speak on behalf of Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Thomas Gass, Assistant Secretary General for Policy Coordination and Interagency Affairs of UNDESA. Mr. Cherkasov, you have the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, we are delighted to be here with the IGF community in this beautiful city of Istanbul and those watching live around the world to deliver these closing remarks. We would like first to thank the chair of the 9th IGF, His Excellency Lutfi Elvan, Minister of Transportation, Maritime Affairs and Communication of Turkey, as well as Mr. Tayfun Akarir, Chairman of the Board and the President of Information and Communication Technology Authorities of Turkey, for welcoming us to this meeting. The importance and timely focus of the forum on connection continents for enhanced multi-stakeholder internet governance, and this vibrant venue attracted more than 3,500 delegates who actively engaged in the discussion here in Istanbul and remotely from the world. 144 nationalities were represented. That is the new high record set for future forums. We thank you for this success and warm hospitality. We also acknowledge the dedicated work of Dr. Ahmet Edrin Kavusov, Ms. Aysel Kandemir, and their team of the Department for Information and Communication Technology Authority of Turkey for their huge efforts to put on this successful meeting. The United Nations is extremely grateful for your crucial contribution that have made this IGF such a rousing success. We gratefully recognize the outstanding preparatory work done by the community of volunteers and each and every member of the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group under the guidance of the Chair, Ambassador Giannis Karklins. They have put together highly relevant and useful program and ensured that the top global experts have designed the various sessions and the workshops. We would also like to recognize and sincerely thank all the donors who have contributed financially and in kind to help to put this fabulous meeting. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we gratefully acknowledge our colleagues with the United Nations Department of Public Information for their extensive coverage and professional communication outreach this week. Our dear friends from the United Nations Office from Geneva and the Department of Safety and Security for providing strong security, excellent conference services, and interpretation. The technical web team from the United Nations Office in Nairobi and their local assistance staff also deserve our gratitude for connecting this group's thousands of devices each day. Special thanks as well much to be given to the dedicated live transcription team for their outstanding work that provided the opportunity for the effective communication to all participants, including those at the remote locations. It was truly a team effort to enable remote participation, which brought so many more people from all parts of the world into our deliberations through the past week. The national and regional IGF initiatives should also be recognized, as they have further expanding the importance and inclusive multi-stakeholder internet dialogue to new countries and regions over the past year. We are certain that these initiatives will continue to grow and prosper in the coming year and beyond. The Internet Governance Forum is more relevant and important than ever before. Moving forward, policy discussions will require more, not less, multi-stakeholder interaction models, which is one of that IGF provides. Year after year, the IGF has continued to evolve in parallel in so many issues and challenges facing the community and the world. The IGF has also continuously identified good practices and local solutions for adaptation, and scaling up through the bottom-up and inclusive framework. Leading up to the 10th IGF, there will be increasingly more intersessional participatory processes to be more systematically monitor and act on the opportunities and challenges that the Internet bridges. This week we have worked together to contribute to the fostering of the trustworthy cyberspace that promote peace and security, enable economic and social development, and respect human rights. This year, the Best Practice Forum drew together the knowledge, wisdom, and expertise of the stakeholders to provide useful insights to the whole Internet community on developing meaningful multi-stakeholder mechanisms, regulations, and mitigations of the unwanted communication, Internet security, environmental for development, online child safety and protection. All stakeholders are encouraged to continue and comment on the draft best practice document of the IGF, which is going to be available on the IGF website until 15 September. This work will continue on the ongoing basis. The IGF Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group is aiming to continue, improve, and strengthen the IGF in line with the CSTD Working Group recommendation, with the participation of everyone here and multi-stakeholder Internet governance community. As we approach the preparation of the 2015 IGF, the renewal of the MAC process will be launched as soon as next week. Is it expected that 1/3 of the current members of MAC will be replaced? And we invite the IGF community to start thinking about the suitable candidates. Ambassador Conklins will continue to exercise the functions of the MAC chair in 2015. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude by noting that this current mandate of the IGF set to the end next year. The United Nations stands really and ready to support its member states in their review of the World Summit on Information Society. We trust that you will reach out to your respective constituencies and communities to raise awareness about the importance of this review to continuity of the IGF. We wish you to safe travel back to your homes and see you at the 10th IGF next year. Teşekkür ederim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cherkosov, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mr. Chiambo, Deputy Director General of Department of International Organization and Conferences for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, China. Mr. Chiambo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Distinguished Mr. Tafan Akara, the President of Turkish Information and Communication Technology Authority, friends from multi-stakeholder groups, ladies and gentlemen, at outset, on behalf of the Chinese delegation, I'd like to congratulate on the successful convening of the 9th Internet Governance Forum and thank the Turkish government and the Forum Secretariat for their hard work in preparation for this forum. Over the past 4 days, in the beautiful city of Istanbul, a city at a crossroads of Oriental and Occidental civilizations, delegates from multi-stakeholder groups have had lively discussions on the issue of governance of the system of Internet and put forward insightful and inspiring ideas and best practices. Internet has brought about profound changes to people's life in China, with 630 million netizens. 20 billion messages are sent out every day, and the annual e-commerce transactions in China can amount to $1.6 trillion. Therefore, Internet's contribution to economic growth has surpassed 10% and has become a most robust growth point for national economy. In the just concluded China Internet System conference, some experts believe that given the immense potential of the Internet, its future trajectory of development has been beyond the imagination of people born in the 60s, 70s, or even 80s, but rather can only be left to the younger generation born in the 90s or even after. This has fully testified to the remarkable potential and complexity for the future of Internet. The governance of Internet is an urgent and daunting task. It requires collective participation and international cooperation. It is imperative to strengthen the role and position of the government within the multi-stakeholder approach, while at the same time support civil society, technical, community, and private sector to leverage their own advantages. The roles of different stakeholders need to be synergized in order to create an effective governance system, in order to avoid acting silo or creating confrontations. IGF, as an important mechanism based on multi-stakeholderism within the UN framework, has played a unique role in advancing Internet governance. We look forward to a greater IGF functions, renewed mandate, and enhanced substantive role, as well as sustainable and stable financial resources. Internet is the second living space for the humanity and a key global infrastructure. The internet needs to be globally governed, and key resources need to be globally managed. Without the equal and democratic participation in the governance at the global level, safety and universality of the internet cannot be realized. Despite the highly globalized nature of the internet, countries have the prerogative to safeguard their information safety and should not seek their self-claimed absolute security and safety at the cost of other countries. Internet community need to uphold the principle of mutual respect and trust and engage effectively in international cooperation in order to build a safe, peaceful, open, and collaborative cyberspace and foster multilateral, transparent, and democratic internet governance system. Mr. President, as the world's largest developing country, China has attached great importance to the development and accessibility of the internet. Today, the digital divide between North and South is narrowing, but new gaps have emerged in terms of access quality and broadband penetration. With the deepening of globalization, eliminating digital divide is of great significance for the prosperity of the world economy. As long as there still exists digital divide, as long as there are still 2/3 of the population in the world excluded from the internet, we should continue to keep our focus on the issue of internet development. For developing countries, internet governance remains a tree without roots, and this is what I believe the theme of this year's IGF Connecting Continents is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chiambo, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Ms. Madalina Kiretu, volunteer with the Open Government Institute in Moldova. Ms. Kiretu, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. My name is Madalina Crețu. I am from Moldova, and I will be 14 in 10 days. By the way, how many of you have delivered speeches at 14? I am very nervous, but it's a privilege to be on this stage and share my reflections on IGF with you. This is my first IGF. It is impressive how much you can learn and how many people you can meet in the IGF. I say hello to people from Turkey, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Uganda, USA, India, Indonesia, Japan, Serbia, Germany, and so many more. I heard so many new words and acronyms: IGF, Internet Governance Forum, MAG, Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, ICANN, ISOC, DIPLO, Eurodig, Council of Europe, Children Online, Decision Making, Civil Society, Government, Access, and so many more. I wish I had lessons at school that would teach us about all this, but in Moldova we don't have such lessons. Did you see any other kids at this IGF except for myself and my younger sister? Not many. If everyone in the room wants internet to be open, safe, and accessible for all, including for kids and teens of my age, we need more kids and teens in the IGF. Or maybe we need a youth IGF. Thank you all very much. It has a great pleasure to be here. And thanks to my mom for bringing us to the IGF.
Thank you, Ms. Kiretu, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mr. Chris Painter, Coordinator for Cyber Issues, Department of State, United States Government.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, I have to say, and congratulations on that speech. And that certainly shows why we're here, to really preserve an open, vibrant, and multi-stakeholder internet, not just for old guys like me, but for the new generation. So thank you for that. And what an incredible week this has been. For those who doubt the value and vibrancy of the multi-stakeholder process, they only need to come to IGF and come to the regional meetings and see how this process works. It's truly been a pleasure to spend this week here with you at the Internet Governance Forum. I want to thank the many people who have made this event possible, in particular our Turkish hosts, the IGF Secretariat, and the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. It is because of your efforts that the IGF remains an annual highlight of the Internet Governance meeting calendar. I've had the privilege of attending the IGF every year since 2011's meeting in Nairobi. At each of these meetings, I've been struck by the quality of engagement across a range of perennial issues, including human rights, security, development, economic growth, and many others. The IGF's ability to sustain a maturing, multi-stakeholder dialogue about the big issues surrounding Internet governance is one of its hallmarks of its success. Every one of the IGF's meetings has been unique, and the IGF makes a valuable, substantive contribution to the global dialogue on Internet governance. But it also contributes to providing a space free from the pressure of formal decision-making and negotiations, where all stakeholders can communicate and understand each other's perspective and develop more collaborative relationships. This reduces misunderstanding across stakeholder groups when we engage in other venues. This year's IGF has displayed all of these traits. It has picked up where last year's IGF left off in advancing the conversation on pressing Internet governance issues of today, such as promoting access, advancing rights online, including privacy rights, capitalizing on the Internet's potential to spur economic growth, fostering science, technology, and innovation across many sectors, and of course, deepening conversations about the multi-stakeholder model and the IGF itself. This year's IGF has displayed its usual nimbleness by introducing some unique and timely themes. I was happy to participate in a session devoted to Net Mondial on Monday, where the community came together to learn of the successes of that conference that was held by our friends in Brazil. In response to Net Mondial, there has been a track on net neutrality this week, including a main focus session on day 2. For the first time, IGF's best practice forums will produce a tangible output that captures our work here and for the use of all. There has been important sessions devoted to the recently launched IANA transition and ICANN accountability processes. There have been much discussion of important events on horizons, such as the post-2015 development agenda and the 10-year review of WSIS. Most importantly, this IGF is focused on the institution itself. Our common conversations this week have focused on implementing key improvements, securing long-term sustainability, and making this forum the most vibrant and meaningful venue for Internet governance. For each of these timely issues, the IGF provides a space for stakeholders to collaborate in new ways. In all of these ways, this IGF has been a great success. The questions that we now face is how to make the most of this meeting and the success. Just as the theme of this IGF was connecting continents, an important way to make the most of this conference is connecting conversations. Let's make our work here relevant throughout the next year and ensure that the 2015 IGF builds upon this one. First, we need to connect those who are unable to participate in this year's IGF with the important conversations that we've had here. That means finding ways to take the lessons that we have learned this week and sharing them with those who are not here. Second, we need to connect next year's IGF with this one by ensuring continuity of workshop themes and organizing them in ways that build upon this year's conversations and this year's progress. We need to continue to find ways to create local fora for multi-stakeholder engagement through regional and national IGFs. These fora provide valuable opportunities to continue the conversation between IGFs and involving additional voices, including, as one of the ministers said in the opening, voices from governments and government agencies who don't normally participate in Internet governance discussions or are not the ICT ministries, just involving all of those people and other stakeholder groups. We must work together to secure a financial footing for the IGF, so I urge all of you here to consider a contribution to the IGF Trust Fund, and we think that's very important. Finally, we need to ensure that these conversations continue. That's why we called for an extension of the IGF mandate at UNGA at the UN General Assembly this year. We renew that call again here today. We welcome that many stakeholders have coalesced around an extension, and they have recently endorsed a statement to that effect. So thank you, everyone, for contributing to just an amazing and great week. The conversations that took place here constitute a robust body of work, and I look forward to working with all of you to connect this week's conversation and conversations, and thereby strengthen the work of the IGF, and with it, the multi-stakeholder system of Internet governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Painter, for your remarks. And our next speaker is Ms. Burcu Kılıç, Legal Counsel of Public Citizen. Ms. Kılıç, you have the floor.
Teşekkür ederim. Merhaba. Welcome to my beautiful country. Hope you enjoyed your time in Istanbul, the city of two continents, the city of dreams, the city of past, present, and future. It was great to have you here. We had a long week of discussions focusing on internet and how we can promote its expansion globally, how we can provide broader and more inclusive access, and how we can empower societies and individuals through internet and provide social and economic justice. I really enjoyed these discussions and I learned a lot. But one thing that caught my attention. All this week, I couldn't help myself but thinking whether internet has a gender. Why men in suits were the majority of speakers on most of the panels, except from the ones about feminism, women empowerment, and gender issues, thankfully. I thought that I was the only female speaker here, but apparently we are 2.5. And I am a woman, and I'm from Turkey. I check all the boxes. I am an IGF minority. I think I should get like 2 extra more minutes for that. That would be a positive discrimination. I'm here to speak on behalf of civil society, and we, the civil society, are concerned about the growing frequency and sophistication of internet filtering and content blocking by the governments. This leads to shrinking of space for freedom of expression. It limits public access to information and violates fundamental human rights. But we are hoping that we can all come together to find legal, political, and human rights respecting approach to resolve these concerns. Thus, we wholeheartedly endorse and support the efforts of Turkish civil society. I really hope that you had an opportunity to interact with these smart, extremely courageous, and passionate people who weren't represented enough here. The topic of IGF has to change every year, but the problems that we discuss do not change until they have been solved. The issue of state surveillance, and please let's not forget the corporate surveillance, are both burning issues. We find ourselves in the midst of an all-out invasion of what's none of their business coming from both governments and corporate sources. Bearing in mind that privacy is a fundamental human right, central to the maintenance of democratic societies, any state surveillance should be within the framework of 13 necessary and proportional international principles. Corporate data collection has to be reined in and taken out of the realm of opt-in and opt-out contracts and never-ending terms of services. Tonight I'm flying to Vietnam, and I'm flying to Vietnam for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement negotiations. And I'd like to draw your attention to trade negotiations and their increasing impact on shaping internet governance. Because these negotiations are close, they are a poor forum for making internet policy, leading to policy that naturally favors businesses with major lobbying operations and taking on a transactional nature, such as we'll give you X if you accept why. Rather than the sort of open and multi-participant forums deciding issues on the merits, we would prefer for great ideas to be debated and decided publicly. For instance, the content industries seek intellectual property protections that go beyond what most economists today see as helpful and can ultimately reduce rather than expand the richness of culture and speech online. Similarly, how do we adequately protect user privacy if cross-border data flow provisions are negotiated principally from the perspective of IT companies and privacy experts and public can't evaluate text? This is why we need IGF as a permanent and strengthened forum, because IGF is one of the few forums that gives voice to the most important constituency to which all of us are accountable, and that is internet users. When I say this, I speak for all of us here. IGF should be made permanent, democratic, multi-stakeholder forum within the framework of United Nations. That should be reformed and strengthened. Lastly, I want to re-emphasize that internet belongs to us, its users. Governments and corporations are merely our trustees, and they are accountable to us for their actions, not the other way around. Thank you. Safe travels back home and come back again.
Thank you, Ms. Kılıç. Next speaker is Mr. Hossam El Gamal, board member and treasurer of African ICT Alliance and the vice chair of EITESAL Association. Mr. El Gamal, you have the floor.
Thank you. Okay. I'll try to make it brief. First, I would like to express our thanks to our hosts, the government of Turkey, for their gracious hospitality in this beautiful historic city. The image of IGF 2014 includes Istanbul iconic bridge over the Bosphorus, a bridge at a crossroads of civilization, joining East and West, new and old. Indeed, the discussion prompted by this year's IGF theme, Connecting Continents, have clearly demonstrated that we are all at crossroads. I am a member of ICC BASIS, an initiative by the International Chamber of Commerce to represent the global business community in internet policy discussion. I'm from Egypt, a country which sits at a crossroads between two continents, Asia and Africa. And instead of a bridge, we have the Suez Canal, which acts as a major global trade link connecting North and South. Egypt is also a developing country, where business is mainly driven by small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, for whom the internet is a major enabler for both local and international growth. However, the success of SMEs depends not only on the technology itself, but on the policies that have been put in place to enable the development of the digital society and to boost online trade and e-commerce. That is why it is so key that SMEs' voice are heard, in particular from developing countries. More need to be done to enable the participation of SMEs. ICC is working to expand overall business participation across sectors and geographies. And we welcome the launch of the IGF Support Association, which will contribute to the financial stability of the IGF, including helping to enable exactly this kind of participation from developing countries. There is an ever-increasing dependence on a secure, stable, resilient internet for businesses in financial services, logistics, healthcare, automotive, and many other sectors to properly function. Addressing the challenges of governance on and off the internet to maintain such a secure, stable, and resilient resource should be a business imperative for them. And we will do all we can to bring them into the IGF. Businesses of all sizes must include in internet governance dialogue, and that means highlighting that the work of the IGF include not just the challenges to governance, but also how to help countries companies, and individuals benefit from increased economic growth that can fuel enhanced societal benefit. This IGF had focused on potential improvement and enhancement. There is an emerging call for a broad range of stakeholders, not just to renew the mandate of the IGF for another 5 years, but to further extend its re-endorsement to enhance its stability and ability to engage in longer-term improvements. There has similarly been broad recognition across stakeholder groups this week that the IGF will also require enhanced and stable funding. A unique element of the IGF is its ability to facilitate broad conversations as stepping stones to consensus and practical outputs for capacity building, best practice, and knowledge transfer. It is a laboratory of diverse exploration, not a negotiation body that is tied to a specific topic, or the development of a text as its initial objective. In that way, IGF is not suited to a unitary outcome. It is the home of diverse projects and ideas, resulting in a rich variety of outcomes. Discussion of various elements of net neutrality at this IGF is an example of meaningful dialogue on a complex and controversial subject, promoting better understanding of various positions, clarifying misconceptions, and highlighting topics that require further exploration to facilitate conversation. These are all important outputs of IGF and lose none of their significance by not being reduced to a single document. Better capturing learning and making it portable and applicable, especially for developing economies, is another enhancement that we need to continue work on. Part of that enhancement may include the development of tools to better associate existing resources to issues under discussion, what some have called a policy router. Finally, the role of regional and national IGFs is an important complement and catalyst to the IGF. We should ask how we further energize the national and regional IGFs in an omnidirectional communication and knowledge transfer, not just between IGF and national and regional bodies, but also among national and regional bodies that can share outcomes, enable knowledge transfer, and help identify pressing issues to consider. We must also explore how such a network of regional and national IGFs can form the architecture backbone of intersessional work. In short, we need to do more to evolve and sustain the IGF going forward. It is the conviction of the global business community that the IGF's lifespan as an effective multi-stakeholder forum must be long and rich, and its ongoing value must continue much beyond 2015. But above all, the IGF must endure in its multi-stakeholder forum, bringing diverse perspectives together to discuss the issues at the forefront of internet policy making. Diversity is the best and the only way to achieve a culture of informed policy choices. This is the approach that fosters and protects the transformative power of the internet across the developing and the developed economies alike. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. El Gamal, for your remarks. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Salam Yamud. She is the co-founder and vice chair of the Lebanese Internet Center and member of the board of the RIPE NCC. Ms. Yamud, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Salam Yamud, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Internet technical community. I would like to thank our host, the government of Turkey, and all those many stakeholders who have contributed to make this 9th Internet Governance Forum a success. First, I would like to comment on the term multi-stakeholder that you have heard many times this week. This concept was identified by the WSIS process more than a decade ago as an essential part of the Internet success. But even predating this definition, we in the technical community have identified our organizations to be open, bottom-up, and inclusive. What does this mean? It means that 7 years after my first IGF in Hyderabad, I have the honor to stand in front of you representing the technical community. This means that after visiting the ISOC booth in the IGF in Sharm el-Sheikh, few of us got together and started the ISOC chapter in Lebanon. This means that I, no matter my affiliation, no matter where I came from, I was able to join the technical community, listening, contributing, and interacting with new colleagues from all over the world. But the technical community is part of the larger ecosystem, another term we have heard this week. This ecosystem is a collection of diverse organizations and individuals working independently, autonomously, and cooperatively in an environment of permissionless evolution and innovation. I admit it's a complicated mechanism, and it is only by participating that I understood the fundamental functioning of that ecosystem and the organizations I work within. I admit that it was a shift in culture from the top-down command and control environment I came from. In technical terms, the internet is a single global network, unfragmented, neutral, providing end-to-end connections. We should not take these fundamentals for granted. The technical community plays an essential role maintaining these features, and these features are vital to preserving the internet as we know it, not just for the next billion, but for the billions to come. The discussions this week have touched on some of these issues: fragmentations of the internet, the consequences of technologies like carrier-grade NAT for users and policymakers, and of course, the technical administration of the internet, including the IANA functions. We have also heard from so many about the importance of our regional communities and forums. Coming from a region whose internet community is growing, I see the need for capacity building. This facilitates our engagement in the various forums where specific regional as well as global issues can be addressed. These discussions emphasize the important role of the IGF in our internet ecosystem, a role highlighted in the output of the Net Mondial meeting in Brazil earlier this year. They also underline that there will never be a single solution to the challenges of internet governance, nor a single leader. The internet itself is constantly evolving, and our governance processes must evolve, adapting and building on past successes. The transition of the United States government out of its oversight role over the IANA functions is an example of this evolution. We would see this as yet another opportunity to prove that multi-stakeholderism is not just another buzzword. It's a mature module that works to solve practical challenges. It's in that spirit that we in the technical community look forward to working with all stakeholders in their respective roles to meet current and future challenges. We also support an ongoing, continually improving Internet Governance Forum as a vital platform for meeting these challenges. Sitting on the sideline or engaging in the solution is your choice. As the famous Lebanese writer Khalil Gibran wrote, your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you, as by the attitude you bring to life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yamut, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mr. Milton Miller. He is Professor, University, Syracuse University School of Information Studies, USA. Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank first the host country and the IGF Secretariat for the excellent facilities and the well-organized event. I also want to shout out to the local alternative informatics activists in Turkey for their courage in mobilizing an ungovernance forum, and this was indeed an excellent group of people. Looking back over the past 4 days, we've had an intense dialogue about the problems and issues posed by internet governance. We have the feeling, and this is what makes it exciting, that we're building some new kind of political community, maybe even revolutionary new forms of governance. At this closing, I'd like to take this idea a bit further than it's been taken before. Right now, for better or worse, we've attached the label multi-stakeholder to this system, and the term has taken hold. But let's face it, it's a lousy label. It's an ugly term. I can see people marching for liberty and equality. I can see them laying down their lives for democracy and rights. But multi-stakeholderism, really? This isn't just about words. In some ways, the label is good, but in other ways it misleads us. It frames a political debate in the wrong way. The global internet governance debate is not really about having multiple stakeholders in the same room to discuss and negotiate policies, because the old system of governments and intergovernmental organizations tried to do that too, but in a very different way. The key difference is that multi-stakeholderism elevates non-state actors to decision makers with the same status as governments. And that is a radical change. You can't help but go back to that famous 1996 document by John Perry Barlow, the Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace, the idea that cyberspace was a separate political community. Now, his idea that the internet was immune to control by states, of course, has been discredited, unfortunately. But remember, Barlow drafted a Declaration of Independence, and that does not mean that existing nations have no power. It means that the residents of cyberspace maybe want a distinct nation of their own. You might laugh at that assertion. An internet nation? What does it mean? Surely everyone knows that states are territorial, that internet service providers are based in physical facilities that are located in jurisdictions, that users and jurisdictions and laws are also attached to users. But these arguments actually carry much less weight than you might think. There's nothing terribly crazy or controversial about the concept of an internet community, a society of people formed in and around internet connectivity. Internet users actually do have their own interests, an incipient identity, their own norms, their own modes of living together. Well, a nationality is just a community that wants its own state, its own political system. It doesn't really matter whether existing sovereigns currently have the power to impose their rules on us. What matters is whether that internet community can be organized to assert and gain their own political independence. Existing sovereigns already had dominion over the American colonies when they declared themselves independent. China and Africa were carved up by foreign powers prior to their independence. Every movement for political autonomy has had to display some pre-existing form of sovereignty. Every nation is an invention based upon an imagined community. So what we need now is an internet national liberation movement. But how would the internet create its own state? How would it function? How would it assert sovereignty against other states? These are tough questions, can't be fully answered here. But the pioneers in this field have already hit upon some of the key techniques. One is to globalize the flow of technology, the flow of content. Another is to keep core technical coordination functions out of governmental hands. Another is to radically undermine, perhaps in the way that WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden did, the exclusivity of the data and intelligence that nation states enjoy. Bitcoin has even shown that we can have a global non-state currency. Now, we don't want to destroy territorial governments. They do important, useful things within their territories. It's just that they're the wrong political units for global internet governance. We need a new political community for that, and that, I hope, is what we're building here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your remarks. I would like to invite Mr. Victor Lagunes from our host for the 2016 IGF. He is the Chief Technology Officer for the Office of President in United Mexican States. Mr. Lagunes, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Typhoon Ayer.
Thank you for hosting us, and thank you for being such a welcoming country. I find so many similarities to Mexico that I even didn't miss that much my dear Mexico. The food, the people, the history. I know you feel very proud about your country, and I thank you for your hospitality. I also thank the IGF Secretariat and the MAC for their continued effort in fostering a multi-stakeholder model for the good of the Internet. Friends and colleagues, within the very core of our national digital strategy, our President, Mr. Peña Nieto, highlighted the relevance, the importance for an open, inclusive, transparent, and trustworthy Internet. We within the Mexican government believe that Internet governance model is a work in progress, and it's a live process in which we should work in collaboration. The industry, which brings continued innovation, competition, and creativity into the model. Civil society, to ensure that our rights are not only respected, but protected. The academic community, to help us understand better what we have achieved, where we have failed, and to bring models for future and better uses. And of course, the government, to ensure there is a healthy competition that fosters innovation, but there are transparent mechanisms to further build trust into the Internet ecosystem. In Mexico, we're convinced that the Internet is a very powerful platform that will not only help, but drive in a very strong part our social and economic development. It is for this reason that the Mexican Constitution was even changed to guarantee Internet access to all Mexicans. A very ambitious goal, but one much needed to not only bring online services to all Mexicans, but establish a platform for continued growth. As we've been discussing these days in the IGF, the ecosystem is evolving, and this evolution comes along with a revision of some concepts that we thought were carved in stone. We discussed net neutrality, we discussed privacy, we discussed infrastructure issues. And this conversation needs to be continued. We congratulate the creation of the IGF Support Association, and we also trust and endorse that the mandate for the IGF will be renewed next year. As Mexico reaffirms its commitment to the multi-stakeholder model, we reiterate our strong interest to host the IGF a year after our Brazilian neighbors in 2016. Mexico, as Turkey did this year, will offer a warm forum for open and rich discussions. We look forward to continue building an open, strong, robust, and trustworthy Internet. Safe travels home. Thank you so much to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Lagunas, for your remarks. Last three speakers. Our next speaker is Mr. Kerem Alkin. He is professor and rector of Nişantaşı University in Turkey. He is also a member of the Internet Development Board and chairman of Multi-stakeholderism, one of the significant NGOs in Turkey. Dear Alkin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the member of the multi-stakeholders of the Global Internet Network, since 1945, maintaining the international peace and security through peaceful settlement of the disputes and effective measures, strengthening friendly relations with respect based upon equal rights between countries and the principles of the self-determination of the nations, providing solutions to international economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian issues with any racial, sexual, language-based, and religious discrimination to ensure cooperation in the development of human rights, adapting the role of being a central point between the countries with the intentions mentioned above. We are all thankful to the United Nations due to its efforts and services for the betterment of the world. Under the lights of the United Nations mission, we try to do our best for using the global internet network and the national broadband policies for the leverage of the regional and the global development of the world. In today's world, in which the internet reaches 40% of the world's population and being used by nearly 3 billion people by means of Internet Governance Forum, it is a great pleasure that topics such as the Internet sustainability, robustness, security, stability are being discussed in a United Nations-led international platform. Turkey, devising a great development in the recent years in the field of information and communication technologies, as being the host country of this very important forum, also reinforce our belief that Turkey is on the right track. To conclude, we are all grateful to the United Nations for pioneering the important organization, to the Ministry of Transport, Maritime Affairs and the Communications for arranging the host country as Turkey to the 9th IGF, and to Information and Community Technologies Authority for undertaking the organization of the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerem Alkin, for your remarks. Now, I would like to invite host of the next year IGF, Ambassador Benedicto Fonseca Filo. He is the Director of Department of Scientific and Technological Affairs in Ministry of External Relations of Federative Republic of Brazil. He will speak on behalf of the Brazilian delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start by thanking the government of Turkey for hosting us. Also, I'd like to thank the IGF Secretariat, the MAG chair, and all those who have made this meeting possible. That means you, the community. We had very meaningful discussions in the context of this IGF on a range of issues, and some of those were mentioned here: net neutrality, access, developmental issues, the ICANN transition process, follow-up to Net Mundial, and the strengthening of the IGF process itself. We look forward to resuming discussions on those issues in Brazil next year, and we will be working towards making it a success by seeking to strengthen ever more IGF. And in our view, this has been discussed in the context of this meeting as well, there are so many angles through which we should work together, and we are willing to do it, to keep discussions within IGF meaningful, related to issues that are timely, that are relevant, to communicate the content of those discussions to the outside world, those that are not involved as we are here. Also to seek to include participants from other sectors, from all walks of life, to have more young people, and I would like to emphasize this element, to relate to other existing processes and fora. To my understanding, a clear measure of success of IGF and of the internet governance ecosystem itself is to make the vision that was conveyed by the WSIS process, the Agenda Tunis document in particular, a reality in which internet governance is composed by a multiplicity of stakeholders working in cooperation in their respective roles and responsibilities to make sure that the system as a whole will function better. We would like to work towards realizing that vision, and we think that this entails that the IGF would also seek to relate to those existing foreign processes, and I would say, in particular, the intergovernmental processes. We can remain in silos, discussing among ourselves in those different settings, or we can try to build bridges and make the best out of all of what we have. Those are collective constructions we have achieved over the years, and I think, and this is what my government has been trying to do, to achieve the best of what we have, in mutual recognition, in mutual respect. So building bridges is something that is very dear to us. The meeting we'll host in Brazil next year would be the last one before the United Nations General Assembly high-level meeting to discuss the overall review of the WSIS outcomes, and in particular, the future of IGF. So we have the notion of the honor and also the responsibility, particularly because we will be trying to build upon the very meaningful discussions we had here, and also on the outcome of Net Mundial. We also had the honor to host in Brazil in April. So we are fully aware and ready to accept that challenge to organize together with you, together with the community, meet in Brazil that will live up to its expectations. And by the time the United Nations General Assembly will meet, we want to convey a very clear message about the importance of IGF, of the unique role that IGF plays in this ecosystem in an unparalleled way that cannot be matched. We want to contribute to this, and therefore we will be working in New York with our colleagues and other governments to convey that notions. I'd like to, at this point, to indicate that we would, I know in the context of this meeting, a number of organizations have coalesced and put up a document of recommendation to the UN General Assembly aimed at recommending the extension of the mandate of the IGF. We are fully in support of that. We think it's very important that this message will be conveyed here in the preparation for the UNGA meeting. And we will, again, work in that context to make a contribution in order to render IGF a permanent forum, an open-ended mandate, and to explore ways through which IGF can have also financial sustainability. In that regard, I'd like to highlight we have been supporting through the Brazilian Steering Committee IGF. We intend to continue to do so, and we invite all those to consider also contributing to IGF. And we want, in the context of the discussion leading to the Brazil meeting, also to discuss in depth the financial sustainability of this forum. So I thank you very much, and we look forward to see you in Brazil next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Fonseca, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mr. Yanis Karklins, Chair of the Multi-stakeholder Advisory Group and Ambassador for Latvia. Ambassador Karklins, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have a speech, actually. After listening Milton, I thought everything that I wanted to say became a little bit irrelevant because it was too formal. You see in front of you a happy man. And this is not happy because the meeting touched the end, because it is that we will have a next meeting, and hopefully we'll have many meetings further, and because we will have opportunity to listen inspiring ideas such as just we heard from Milton, and maybe one day we will have independent cyberspace where the distance between 2 points is non-existent. And today, what today sounds as maybe mission impossible, actually it is, because if we look back 10 years, everything we had on the table and discussed thoroughly in 2006, today is the reality. We spoke about unsustainability of very close oversight of one government over organization exercising coordination of critical internet resources. Today, the situation is completely different, and this very strict oversight has been replaced with a loose cooperation agreement, which hopefully in the future will change the nature and will become cooperation agreement among everybody on every item. And this is the substance of proposals which one expert panel made in this regard. IGF itself also is under scrutiny, and as you know, we will have the discussion about extension of the mandate. And we will be measured against the recommendations which have been made by the working group on improvement of IGF, and these recommendations were at the heart of discussions of multi-stakeholder advisory group who did the planning of this meeting. And multi-stakeholder advisory group was just an architect, but the constructor, these were you, all those who came with proposals to organize workshops and who did organize those workshops. And I would like to express my gratitude to all those volunteers who did this job, because that is because of you the IGF is what it is, and that represents, or that makes us feel very good about it. On practical note, Secretariat has tried to capture the highlights and important things that has happened during these 5 days, and put that on paper that I hope all of you have as a takeaway from today's session. Of course, that's not only one takeaway. We have tried to produce much more outputs this year in order to give more substantive input to the internet governance discussion worldwide. This most probably will be introduction to Chairman's report of this IGF, and we will have also a traditional reflection, factual reflection of everything that has happened during this week. Apart from that, 5 compilations of best practices. Apart from that, the synthesis of information, what has happened as a result of engagement in IGF. And here I would like maybe to encourage, do not hesitate to provide that information, because we need to know what is happening. We need to know, for instance, that 2 years ago in a workshop organized by URID and UNESCO, Windsurf was asked very uncomfortable question, why Gmail do not support IDNs? And hence what happened? 2 years later, Gmail supports IDNs. Whether that was direct impact of IGF or indirect, but nevertheless, we had a chance to ask those questions, and most probably went back to engineers in Google and said, what the hell? Why we do not support IDNs? Please make it happen. And it is today reality. It remains me, since the red light is already blinking, it remains me to thank Turkish government for hospitality. It was remarkable, wonderful venue, wonderful settings, technical equipment, no comments, very good. And we're very happy with that. Also, IGF Secretariat, who worked tirelessly throughout the year and also during the meeting until late nights. Also, UNDESA team, who is extremely supportive to IGF, and to all of you for being here, for contributing your wisdom and knowledge. In concluding, special thanks to Mr. Markus Kummer, my advisor, who helped me a lot in exercising my task, guiding the MAG, and to the MAG members who are fabulous. This is the group of people who is so dedicated to the task. So thank you very much, and look forward to cooperation also in preparation of 2015 IGF in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Karklins. Ambassador Fonseca will now introduce a video about where the next IGF annual meeting will take place. Ambassador Fonseca, please.
Thank you. I'd like, with your permission, Mr. Chair, to break the protocol a little bit and ask also to join me here on stage the Executive Secretary of the Brazilian Steering Committee, Harmut Glaser, because we are host government, for sure, and very honored, but in reality, the real host is the Brazilian Steering Committee, here represented by Mr. Glaser, and I'd like then to give him the floor to make the presentation. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me to be speaking in behalf of Brazil, and I like to use one name of a very good friend here in Turkey. I met him in Brussels. Durdu, are you here? Yeah. He was so kind to introduce me to this wonderful country, and we started a very strong relationship, a very good friendship, and he visited Brazil, visit CGI, and we are working together to construct a very, let's say, strong internet, not only in Turkey, not only in Brazil, but support IGF, ICANN, and other activities. Sometimes I receive requests about my name, and I introduce myself as my first name is CGI, my second name is multi-stakeholder, and my family name is Brazil. So now you will know this country next time, and I like to announce that we will have the 10th IGF in November 2015, the days 10 to 14, in a very different place. Normally when we say Brazil, we think of Rio de Janeiro, we think on São Paulo, but there's a state in the northeast with the name Paraíba. Paraíba. And the capital of Paraíba is a very, very single name, João Pessoa. Can you repeat? João Pessoa? It's not so easy, but João Pessoa will receive all of you next year in Brazil. It's a city with 800,000 people, a wonderful city, beaches, and a lot of, let's say, very Brazilian typicals, and I like to invite all of you to be with us next year in November in João Pessoa in Paraíba. Government of Brazil and CGI together, we are working to work hard. Will not be easy, will not be easy to maintain the same level than Turkey, but we will try to do our best. Welcome in Brazil. Thank you. Now the video, please.
praia possui uma localização privilegiada. A capital João Pessoa fica a aproximadamente 120 quilômetros de Recife, capital de Pernambuco, e a 180 quilômetros de Natal, capital do Rio Grande do Norte. E nada melhor que começar logo cedo o dia para poder apreciar tudo que essa terra tem para oferecer. Do litoral sertão, do Brejo ao Caí, na Paraíba, o turista sempre encontra alguma coisa para se surpreender, começando pelo clima agradável e dias ensolarados a maior parte do ano. E tanto sol e calor são excelentes para pegar uma praia. Difícil vai ser escolher qual delas, já que o litoral de João Pessoa é repleto de belas praias banhadas pelas tranquilas e mornas águas do Oceano Atlântico. Como Picãozinho, com suas piscinas naturais a menos de 2 quilômetros da costa, a famosa praia de Picãozinho. Terceira cidade mais antiga do Brasil, João Pessoa é uma verdadeira mistura do passado e do presente. Sobrados, casarões coloniais e igrejas centrais compõem um dos maiores e mais importantes sítios históricos do país. Além disso, reservas de parques nativas e parques florestais fazem de João Pessoa uma das cidades mais verdes do mundo. A cidade tem a maior reserva da Mata Atlântica em área urbana do Brasil. São 515 hectares de floresta pulsando no coração da cidade. A área dividida entre Jardim Botânico e Mata do Araquém. João Pessoa também é conhecida por respirar áreas de tranquilidade e segurança, e isso você já percebe ao chegar ao aeroporto Castro Filho. Com ótima infraestrutura hoteleira, a cidade está pronta para receber turistas de todo o mundo. São diversas opções de bares, restaurantes, hotéis e pousadas para o turista escolher a vontade. Tudo isso somado à tranquilidade e aconchego natural de João Pessoa faz daquele lugar ideal para relaxar. O Centro de Convenções é uma das maiores obras turísticas do Nordeste, com área para congressos que acomoda 2.500 pessoas, 15 salas de teatro com 3.042 lugares e pavilhão de exposição com 19.000 metros quadrados. A combinação de tranquilidade, natureza, belas praias e história não cabe a João Pessoa. Pelo contrário, é só o mesmo. Seja em direção ao litoral norte ou ao litoral sul, o turista vai se deparar com praias estonteantes e locais que falam por si só. Se as belezas da Paraíba são de encantar, a saborosa culinária é de deixar qualquer um água na boca e vai da tradicional comida regional até os mais requintados pratos feitos de frutos do mar.
Thank you very much for presentation. I would like to thank all speakers for their valuable remarks. We come to the end of the IGF 2014. I will make my concluding remarks in Turkish. Could you please check headphones with you? Sayın Büyükelçi,
distinguished ambassadors,
distinguished representatives of the world of the internet, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. We gathered this week here in Istanbul, and we had a very august crowd, and we discussed the internet at length. And we covered many angles. And this year, we had representation from 150 countries, and there were 3,400 registered participants. We had main sessions and workshops that also attracted remote participation, and as such, we reached a wider geography, and 1,200 extra people attended or participated in our discussions. We discussed access, we discussed development, internet policies, net neutrality, cybersecurity, critical internet resources, and human rights. We covered all these important topics. At this year's IGF meeting, there was a special emphasis on human rights, economic, social, and cultural dimensions, personal data, protection of privacy, and IGF is a very important platform for discussing all these topics, obviously. But in order to further boost the efficiency of IGF, concrete outputs are also equally important. That's why at the opening remarks, our minister talked about the preparation of an Internet Universal Declaration, and I would like to draw your attention to this. The Internet Universal Declaration should, without delay, be prepared in a multi-stakeholder fashion, and this would be the best concrete output of IGF, I believe. Dear guests, at this year's IGF, there was a very large participation at the meetings, and all the sessions were followed with great enthusiasm. For this, I would like to thank all the participants. The fact that the number of participants was high goes to show that IGF's importance is also increasing, and the need for IGF is also increasing. I believe that the wide participation at IGF for this year was achieved thanks to this. And the bar was also raised thanks to wide participation, and IGF will be held in Brazil next year. So for Brazil and for future hosts, the bar has been raised. And we wish Brazil every success, and we hereby pledge that we are ready to provide them with all sorts of support that we can. And finally, I would like to thank the IGF Secretariat, the UN DESA, MAG, and the employees of our institution for their invaluable support for the successful organization of IGF for this year. I also would like to extend my gratitude to everyone who contributed to this year's event. I hope that you will be returning with pleasant memories from the 9th IGF meeting, and we very much hope to see you in Turkey in the future for some other occasion. And taking this opportunity, I also would like to relay to you the greetings of our minister, Mr. Elvan. With these sentiments, I would like to declare the 9th IGF meeting closed, and I also transfer the chairmanship to UN DESA, and for the last 5 days, these premises was UN grounds, and that will also be taken back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. It's been a real pleasure, and I would also like to thank the team from the host country from the Communications Authority, especially ISIL, Meryl and Gokhan over there. If they could stand up, I'm sure. I like people being recognized. They were very, very good. We had a very good rapport with them, and they were excellent, and they answered our questions 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was really great. And I also like to thank the Secretariat team from the IGF Secretariat. I thought I saw Brian there, but no. Okay, I'll start off with Nick. He was our intern from the monk school. I'm sure when he first came, he was a bit, he did not know what hit him. And Serena, who actually came to the IGF Secretariat on very short notice to help me out, especially, and us out. And thank you very much to Serena. And you, Mr. Defoe, who's been with us for the last 9 secretariats, last 9 meetings. Thank you very much. And of course, the writing team over there. I think Sam is first time round, and Susanna as well, first time round. Thank you very much. And all those I've forgotten, I hope not too many. Can you all come up, please, so we can take a picture? Host Country Secretariat and IGF Secretariat, thank you. Get to thank you all again, thanks.